Hello everyone, welcome to a tutorial this time. As you guys have been requesting for quite some time, we'll do a quick tutorial and show you guys how to add a new overlay to the game. And I'm going to show you guys how easy it is to add an overlay state to the project. So let's start. The first thing is I have here in the overlay system overlays. I added a melee folder and I put some poses here. So these poses are coming from Frank Climax animation, so I'm not going to push them to the GitHub project because they do not belong to me. But basically you can use whatever poses you want. The same tutorial is going to function. So here you can see that I have the poses, and basically what we are relying on is the curves here to understand how much we blend each part of the body. So like the left hand, the right hand, etc. So the way to create curves is I put a anim modifier in the project, which is create layering curves here. When you click on this one, you will see that it creates a bunch of curves. We don't need all of these for all the poses, but they are here when you start, and then you can remove the ones that you don't need. And the default value, I'm going to set it to 1. And key each frame, I'm going to remove it because if this is a 1-frame animation and you have this thing selected, it's not going to set the value to 1. It's just going to leave it 0, and it's not going to create a key. So if you have an animation that has multiple frames, you can do this to spawn multiple keys in your animation. But if your animation is just a pose, like 1 frame, then untick this. So once this is added here, I'm going to apply the modifier, and you see like it created all these curves. So the way these curves work is basically it's going to check each and every one of them to understand if it should layer this on top of the normal pose or not. So layer in arm L at 1 means that it is going to take this left arm pose that we have here, and it's going to put it on top of the normal locomotion pose. And 1 means it's going to take this one. If it's 0.5, it means it's going to blend this one 0.5 and the normal pose 0.5. And then you have also the additives, like you have additive and local space. So additive is mesh space, and then LS is additive local space. So these ones basically mean tell the system to play the base locomotion animation on top of this layered animation. So basically here, if we have layering on left at 1, it means that it's going to take exactly this pose. But if we have additive at 1 and local space at 1, it means it's going to take this pose, and then it's going to take the kind of movement and momentum from the base locomotion, and it's going to add it on top of this pose again. So you can play with these values and you will see how it behaves. Sometimes you don't need the legs, so you can remove the legs. If you don't need the additive space, we can remove it. All of these we can play with. And spine rotation is what's used for the aim offset. So if you have a weapon and you don't need to aim offset, for example, in your idle state, in your relaxed state, or your ready state, but if you are in your aiming state, then you want to rotate the character towards where the camera is looking, and this enable spine rotation allows the upper body to rotate when we are looking around with the camera. So basically, this we have different poses. I already did the layering curves for the other poses, but each pose that you have needs to have the layering curves depending on what you want, and then you can delete and add the ones that you don't want. So for example, in the idle, I don't want the hand IK right because the right hand is going to be holding the weapon, so I'm going to remove this curve. And this is idle, I don't need spine rotation, so I'm going to remove it. The IK hand left, I'm going to keep it because I want the left hand to always be where it is. And basically the rest is kind of okay. We're going to see if the legs behave correctly and stuff. So that's it for the poses. Now, if we come here to overlays, like I explained before, we have two base overlays. We have the simple one and the base one. The difference between them is the simple one only has like a relaxed, it has an idle, a move animation. So this is basically used for simple things like not even the torch, but like the box. So there's no aiming with the box. It just has like when I'm idle, I'm blending the pose with a certain parameters, and then when I'm moving, I'm blending it with different parameters. So if you have a simple system, I don't know, like holding something that doesn't require aiming or anything, just you can use the simple. And if you have something that has aiming or like a bit more complex, you can use the complex base. So we're going to use this one for the katana, and we're going to just create a child blueprint of this. We're going to select our skeleton, and here I'm going to call this katana. So I'm going to move it into the melee overlays here, and then we're going to open it, and we're going to start setting our animation. We don't need to touch the graph there. So here we're going to search for katana, and we're going to take the ready idle and the ready walk and the ready run and the ready katana sprint, and I'm going to use basically the same ones for the ready state. And for the aim state, I'm going to use, I have a guard animation, so I'm going to use that one. Okay, so and I'm going to use it in all of them. All these are just poses, by the way. So this is the one we're using for idle. This is the same one used for run, but it just has like different values somewhere. And this is the same one we're using for the walk. Run is a different one, and sprint is the same as run, but again with different values in the layering. And the guard is a different pose where he's guarding, and the same thing, like it has its layering values. So once these are done, basically our overlay state is ready. Now all we need to do is we need to play it. So in order to play it, like we're going to go to the overlay system here, and in the blueprints I'm going to add the overlay state. So here I'm going to add an enumerator and call this katana. We're good. And then I'm going to go into my character here, and in the update overlay state I will see that katana has appeared in here. So I'm just going to copy base the one that is just here, and I'm going to set it for the katana. So this is not a barrel. I'm going to remove this, and it's not left hand, it's right hand. And I'm going to remove the socket because we didn't create it yet. And here we're going to use the katana overlay that we just created, and I'm going to attach this to the katana. And basically we're already done. So let's test, and then we're going to put some adjustments after that. So here we can see that the katana overlay is here, and if we open it, we can see that the overlay is already playing. And if I hit, ooh, okay, something went terribly wrong here. Let me check what's going on. This is the guard animation, and why is it behaving like this? This is weird. It shouldn't be happening. It's a feature, guys. It's a feature. I mean, come on. Like, you just scale your character. Yeah, we're gonna see where this is coming from, and I will fix it in a few. So let's just continue. So the overlay is playing here. So now what we'll do is we'll add a socket and we'll spawn the item. So we'll add a socket for our character. So let's just open our mesh here. I'm gonna open the skeleton, and it's on the right hand. So let's go to the right hand and let's add a socket, and we'll call this overlay katana. And what we can do is we can add a preview asset, and I have a mesh for the katana, which is a Cinti mesh. So I'll put it in here. We can do a preview animation, and we can open, for example, our idle animation to like position the mesh correctly. So what I will do is I already have the values here, so I'm just going to copy them so that we don't waste time. So this is the position, location, and this is the rotation. So katana is a bit big for the character, but we're not going to get into scaling or anything. This is for demonstration purposes. So the overlay is set. We can save this. I'm going to remove all attached assets. And now we're going to come here, and we're going to say that we want to spawn to attach in the overlay katana socket. And the mesh that I want to spawn is this one. Okay, so now if we play the game again, and we go to the katana, it's not spawning it. I probably made a mistake. Overlay, yes. So now if we open this one, we can see that it's working kind of fine. So as you can see, the left hand is acting a bit finicky because of IK, and I think that the problem is coming from the fact that it's actually playing the idle animation on top of the overlay. So let's try to fix that quickly. So we're gonna go into this, and I'm gonna open the idle animation here, and for the left arm additive, and actually even the right arm additives, I'm gonna set these to 0. I don't want additives to play on top. And now let's check. So yeah, it's a bit better, and we can see that it's not playing the base animation on top of that. So IK is still still not done properly, because what we need to do is basically we need to have a socket in the weapon that has where the second hand is supposed to be attached, and then we can get that socket in the animation blueprint and attach to it. I didn't do that yet, and we can see that here the left hand basically goes away when he's playing the idle break animation. So the character every X seconds play an idle break, and then it messes up the overlay. That's what's happening here. But if we do proper IK, or if we don't play this idle break when we're using a katana, but we play an idle break that comes from a katana animation, then that's going to be fine. So now, as we can see, like, everything is working. Do we still have this issue? Yeah, I'm still having this issue. And like we can see that when we're running, like the animation goes to this one. I think that this one is not very good for actually running. So let's change that to the sprint animation. So if we go into the our overlay katana, we'll take this sprint animation and we'll use it for the run as well. So now when we're here, the moment we start running, he's going to go into this pose, and then if we start walking, he's going to go into this pose, running again, sprinting. So let's say that maybe when we sprint, I don't want the right hand to move that much, okay? So I'm going to go into the sprint pose, and I will say that I want the additives again to be at 0. So I want just to use the pose, and I absolutely don't want that movement when I'm running. So, whoa, okay. Now when I'm running, you can see that the hand is like literally static. So this is not very good, but what we should be doing is something like, I don't know, 0.3 or something. And what I will do is I will like duplicate this animation, and for now I'll just call it run 2. And for run 2, like we're gonna use different values here. So for run 2, I'm gonna use 0.6. And now in here, instead of sprint, we'll use run 2, and then in sprint, we'll use that other one. So what we'll see here is basically when we start running, his hand is moving quite a lot. Sorry for that. His hand is moving quite a lot, and then when we start sprinting, it's going to move a bit less. So this is how basically we play with these. Here we can see that the legs are a bit too much. So for example, if we don't want to layer the legs on the idle, so we can just go into the idle animation. So here, and we can say that we don't want the legs. I'm just going to delete them, okay? So now the idle is not using that. Still going to use the legs layering for when he's running, for example, but in idle, he's not going to use them at all. Legs usually don't play very well with layering, so I would avoid that. And of course, these are not poses that are made for the layering. These are just poses that I grabbed to show you guys this. So now let's try to understand what is happening with this guard animation here. Okay, guys, I found out what was going on. It's a bit stupid, but it's you know, the demo tutorial effect. So now the guard is working. So you can see here that basically I have normal state. This is my walking. Now this is running. sprinting is gonna have even less movement. And now if I like go into guard, like he just picks up the katana like this. So the issue was just that in the overlay here, I used the guard animation for aim offset, which is just not supposed to work like that. Aim offset is the sweep. It's the going looking up and down. So left and right in the aim offset is managed by spine rotation, and up and down is managed by an animation. You can take a look at other overlays. You will see how that works. And basically, as you can see here, if we're using the default aim offset here, so even if I'm on the katana and I'm holding right, you see that like he's looking to the left and to the right, but he's actually not like turning his upper body. So the way to do this is just if we go here into this and we add a curve, let's add metadata and enable spine rotation. So yeah, we'll just add this. We're just going to turn it to a curve. We'll leave it at 1. And now if we hit right click and we start turning, you will see like his body actually turns before he turns himself. So this is what we're using basically for this. So that the weapons are always pointing. There is a little like click when it resets. I'm gonna find why that's happening. Actually, it's not happening on crouch. It's behaving much better, but when standing up, it's behaving like that. So that's how you do it, guys. That's how you add an overlay state. To summarize, first of all, you get your poses and you add your layering curves to them. Then you create a child blueprint of either the complex or the base, depending on your thing, and you select all your animations here. Then you add an enum to your to the enumerator here for your overlay state, and then in the character, when you switch overlay, your enum gets added here. You just link the layer, which is your child ABP of the complex or the simple overlay and in blueprint. And then here, if you want to spawn an item, you spawn an item, and if you want to attach it to a specific socket, then you create that socket and you attach your weapon to it. And of course, this was a tutorial, and this was done as fast as possible to show you guys. But basically, if you like create the right poses, tweak your curve values correctly, and use really the values that you need, and like with the 0.6 and 0.7, and to layer everything to keep the additives when it's needed, you'll basically get the result that you want, which is going to look like something like the overlays that we have here that were actually polished and were working. So just a quick thing is the complex overlay is, so you have this is the relaxed state, and then when you're aiming, this is the aimed state, and then when you release aiming, you have the ready state, and then it goes back again into the relaxed state. So this is the complex stuff. So for the katana, this is the relaxed state, this is the aiming, but the relax is the same as ready. This is why you don't see that like additional movement. It's because we didn't create poses. And you can use the same pose, for example, for relax and ready, and just adjust the values for the additives and for the layering to have something that looks different. I just want to say something, guys, here. Like, I get a lot of questions on YouTube and sometimes by email where people are asking me like very, very basic questions as to how the system works. I just want to tell you guys that this is not a simple project. This is a complex project, and if you have absolutely no experience with Unreal, you should probably not be using GASP, let alone GASP ALS. So if you're just starting to make games, although if you take a look at this project and you feel like, okay, this looks great and I really want to use this in my game, if this is your first project and you're just learning, this is going to cause you more issues than you're ready for. So I would really recommend that you guys start with something simple, with simple locomotion, and then once you get used to the project, once you get used to Unreal Engine, once you get used to the animation system, understand how layering works and all of that stuff, then you can like use something like this for a proper project. But if you're just starting in Unreal, this is really not a recommended. And I'm not speaking about GASP ALS. I'm speaking about GASP. GASP in and of itself is a pretty complex project. It's a very advanced locomotion system, and GASP ALS is even more complex than that because it's basically using GASP and adding layering on top of it. So if you guys are just starting to learn Unreal, I would not recommend using this as a starter project. I would recommend that you use a simple locomotion system. Ideally, build your locomotion system yourself, and then once you're used to the animation system and you understand how things work, then you can attack something like this. And that's it, guys, for this video. I hope you understand how the system works. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to let me know. But you should have pretty much all the information to use the layering system. So this was Anas. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please drop a like and subscribe if it's not yet the case, and stay tuned for the next GASP ALS update.